Hey, what's going on, YouTube? We are picking up right where we left off once again. Episode 4 of the Innovative Marine 75-gallon EXT reef build. So this video, we're going to finally dive into all of the equipment used on the tank. I'm going to give you guys first thoughts, quick walkthroughs, installations, and pretty much just get this tank closer to the day we are waiting for, adding rock, salt, and cycling. So first up, it's going to be the Innovative Marine full Helio heating system. Included a 500-watt titanium heater, a very strong magnetic heater holder. Also included the full controller. So it's the full system, guys. You got your controller, you got your heater, temperature probe holder, and the presentation, the box, everything. It just felt like quality. And I was very excited to get this open and get this on the tank. You know, no one really thinks about heaters much, but I'm definitely happy with this. Next item is going to be the mid-sized Wavelink Powerhead. These are rated around 2,500 gallons per hour, tons and tons of flow for the reef tank. Super strong magnets, so I'm curious to see how these perform and how I can mount them and how I can maximize them in the tank. So the next piece of equipment is going to be part of my nutrient export plan. And it's going to be the Santa Monica Filtration Rain2 Algae Scrubber. Now, if you guys are following my channel, well aware I'm a huge fan of these Rain2 scrubbers. Had a ton of success with this on my 120-gallon build, and I figured, hey, if it worked once, it'll work again. So this is everything that's included. You know, you get the housing, you get the feeder pipe, you get the mesh net, you get everything needed to pretty much plug this up and set it up on your tank. Now, for this time around, instead of me making my own manifold and different things to try to make this work, I ended up going with the stand kit that they included. So if you didn't want to use a stand kit, you can use the bar fitting. But for me, I want to set this up in the Sump, so it was neat using this, and it actually has a few different ways of attaching it to your tank. I chose not to glue any of this, but if you want to, you can. You can set different stand heights. You can slide the scrubber on top of it. I mean, it's a few different options you have. It's really clean the way they made it. So part 2 of the export plan is going to be a skimmer. And this time around, I went with the Simplicity DC 120 skimmer. Now, I already unboxed this and assembled it. I didn't get a chance to catch that on video, but it just included, you know, unscrewing the little thumb screws on the bottom of the housing, sliding the pump in, and screwing down the bubble trap and putting it back together. So wasn't too bad at all, but I did want to give you guys a good look at it because this skimmer probably has the most features I've ever had on a skimmer, including, you know, adjusting the air on this knob here. And then you also have the ability of adjusting the flow on the pump because it's a DC pump. And you can also turn this valve and adjust the flow. So you have 3 different adjustments to be able to tune this skimmer. Most skimmers I've had in the past, I've only had 1 or 2 different ways. So I'm really interested in seeing how this improves the flow, improves the performance, and, you know, test my skills in the hobby of actually tuning a skimmer. So other than that, cosmetically, super clean, well built, well put together. And I think it's definitely gonna, you know, look nice on the tank, fit the theme, fit the scheme that I'm going for, and hopefully, you know, the performance I need. So the last piece of equipment we're gonna cover is gonna be the Innovative Marine Mighty Jet Extra Large Return Pump. Now this thing is rated for around 2,600 gallons per hour, which is massive overkill on this system, but I like the fact that I have plenty of power in reserve. With all the manifolds and bends and different things on your system, it's always better to have a pump that's oversized than undersized. So for anyone that's wondering, you can run this external, you know, unscrew some fittings, attach whatever you need. Also includes very thick rubber feet, which helps silence it. And the build of it caught me off guard. It's a very heavy pump. It feels like it's overbuilt, and I think it's gonna last for the life of this tank. So once again, this is just first thoughts. I haven't had a chance to really use this over an extended amount of time, and I will be following up with you guys. Now remember, I had water tests going already, so it was already on the system. I wanted to kind of circle back and show it to you guys. Now, as far as installing the equipment, pretty easy. Sliding the stand mount in for the algae scrubber goes right in the system. I've already had it measured. I already made sure it was going to fit. Have the manifold to where it slides right into the opening where it feeds it. Nothing glued, so I can remove it easy later if I need to. And when it comes to the skimmer, it tucks nice and neat right in front of the algae scrubber in the refugium section. So this is pretty much going to be my nutrient export section of the Sump. Gonna keep it clean, keep it neat, and accessible. Now, for those that have not seen it, go watch episode 2 where I did a full walkthrough on this Sump and its features, which includes a nice heater compartment to slide your heater into, Unfortunately, I tried to get it in here, but the 500 watt version was just a little too big and a little too tall. I believe the 350 watt version of the Helio heater system will fit. So this is the mission if you choose to accept it. 007 vibes, right? What do we do about these wires? What do we do about the controllers with each piece of equipment? The power sources, like how do you manage it, hide it, and keep it to where it's accessible and out of the way? Now, a lot of people I've seen, go outside the tank with control boards. Well, for me, I got some wire length issues with some of these pieces of equipment, so I decided to go the inside the cabinet route, which included mounting everything on the doors of the stand. The plan was to have it accessible when I open the tank versus, keeping it out of the way when everything's closed. And I think this plan is going to work. Now, to pull this off, I did end up picking up one of the DJ power strips. I know a lot of you guys are familiar with this. If not, hop on Amazon, look for it. It's not very expensive, but it is a quick, easy way to add toggle switches to your system without a controller. And the fact that the power cords on the back make it really easy. So, throw in some zip ties, throw in some adhesive wire management holders, and we're going to be off and running. So I gotta be honest with you guys, last few weeks, very, very busy underneath the tank, installing the sump, plumbing, equipment, wire management controllers, you name it. So what better time than now to finally upgrade the return nozzles on the 75-gallon EXT. So for me, I was in the hobby, it's been almost 3 years now. They had these random flow generator nozzles that had just come out. I was pleasantly surprised to see they still have them, and they actually upgraded them to the Flex series. Now, for those who don't know what these are, they use water manipulation. I don't know the science behind it, but it actually shoots random flows of water out of your return nozzles, no mechanical parts. You just pop off the lock line and put these on. Now, the interesting part was the flexible portion of these nozzles. You can squeeze them, you can put them on, take them off. It's very easy. You don't have to use any kind of pressure or force. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. So, getting these installed, shortening the lock lines, aesthetically looks a lot better for me. It doesn't intrude in the tank as much. It's not going to be as distracting from the aquascape, and the flow coming out of them is exactly what I'm looking for. So, random pulses across the surface. Now, of course, the tank's dark, it's empty. I don't have lights to really show you guys, but this will give you a quick look at, what these look like on the tank. So we're going to keep moving, and I'm really looking forward to finally aquascaping and seeing water movement inside the system. So we finally arrived, guys. I chose to accept the water management mission. It was accomplished, it was successful. Honestly, I don't care, my fingers hurt. But in all seriousness, I'm really happy with how it turned out. If you guys enjoy it, go ahead and hit the like button down for me. We're not done yet. But for the most part, I was able to accomplish what I was looking to do. I was able to use double-sided adhesive, stick each controller to the doors itself to where I can access them by opening the cabinet. I was also able to accomplish no visible wires hanging in the sump or from the back of the tank when you're looking at the sump. Those are just two things I wanted to make sure no matter what I was able to get done, and I'm happy with how it turned out. Now, I'll tell you guys, the side doors opening on the stand really gives you a different view that you normally wouldn't get, including the actual controllers on the doors with the doors shut. I can see just how close they are to the sump, if anything's broken or if anything's at high risk. And I do have plans on adding another lid to the middle chamber of the sump to reduce splashing, and then possibly adding a fan to kind of vent the sump, make sure there's not too much moisture or anything that's gonna bother these controllers being mounted where they are. Now, one of the main reasons my builds take so long is because I really like going through different scenarios with tap water, testing things out, equipment, accessibility. Can I get the skimmer cup out? Can I access the algae scrubber? I like doing those things before I add salt water because it's so hard going backwards once you, start cycling your tank, right? So removing the scrubber, putting it back in, plugging up all the equipment, testing some of the lights just to make sure they're working. And I gotta tell you, just one of these lights in this box is super bright. So, man, I'm gonna have plenty of power to, fuel this algae scrubber. Another change I made was raising the algae scrubber up to its highest amount, adding a drain line to it to where I can drain and direct water to one of the possible areas of dead flow in the sump. So, all of these are changes that you can do easier when you have fresh water in the system. And I'm glad that I held off, before cycling the tank and jumping the gun. So overall, everything passed those tests. Now, this also gives you an opportunity to try out some of the controllers that you may not be familiar with. And in this case, the Helio heating system, very easy to set. You can set the actual temperature of your tank. You can calibrate it. You can set the high limits as far as the audible alarms, the low limits for the alarms. And I gotta tell you, when I first hooked this up and put it in the water, the temperature of the tank was already 70 degrees, and it immediately started alerting. And the alarm on this thing is super loud. It is so loud to where I was fumbling around just to try to turn it off. And luckily, they got that right on the side as well. So it's a little toggle switch, turn it off and on, and you can disable it. But overall, this is gonna be a very clean controller. Never had a heater controller before, and I'm glad this is gonna work out. Now, if you guys remember that heating chamber that I mentioned earlier in the video, well, I did find a purpose for it. I ended up routing the temperature probe for the Helio system to this chamber, high flow from the tank, so it should be accurate. And I ended up mounting the heater in the return section. It's not ideal, but it is the recommended way of mounting this heater horizontally in the sump. So hopefully this ends up working out and not go dry. So when it comes to the Simply Aquatics DC120 skimmer, control is just as simple. It does give you a dual display. It shows the watts once you stop touching it, and then the plus and minus and the feed button are available as well. And then when it comes to the skimmer itself, easy to get to. I got it right in front of the sump, so I got a clearer view at the skimmer body, and I can always know if there's an issue or with tuning. Now, when it comes to the return pump, just as easy. Also includes a feed button, manual buttons as far as turning the power up and down, and an on-off button. So just be careful using the feed button, because I actually used that one time instead of turning it off and had the manifold disconnected and it almost came on. I caught it right in time. But when it comes to the wave makers, this is where the most elaborate controls come into play. It does have a bunch of different preset modes on it, and I had to open the package because I can't memorize them, but it does include a bunch. I put a picture up, pulse modes, wave modes, random flow modes, all kinds of modes. So we'll see how these work later. It does also have a master and slave mode on it. It allows you to connect up to 6 of these, which is pretty neat if you want to add more. And then of course, on the slave, you can't change anything but the speed of the pumps. But we'll go into more detail on the flow of these once I actually get lights on the tank, things in the tank that can actually move, and we can really see just how powerful, these pumps are and how much they're going to work for my tank. Now, we'll tell you when it comes to mounting them, definitely a clean mount. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to leave them on the back of the tank or move them to the side of the tank. So for now, I have not secured any of the wires for these pumps yet, but overall, very low profile, and I'm thinking these may get the job done. So stay tuned. So for those wondering the purpose of this, switch power strip, well, it's going to be to replace the functionality of not having a tank controller. I don't have anything I can pull on my phone and turn off equipment. So instead of having to track down cords and a power strip and pull them, I have this nice and neatly tucked on the top shelf, have labels underneath just in case I forget what's what, and I'm able to turn them off and on. And that's pretty much gonna be it, guys. That's what it looks like when you cut down, a week's worth of work into a nice 15-minute video. So ultimately, we got everything accomplished. We got a lot covered. All the equipment's installed. Everything's wired nice and neat. And when it comes to reviews, I always try to follow up on all of the equipment reviews at the 6-month and 1-year marks to really get the full scope of how reliable this equipment is and how well it worked for me and my plans and what you may want to potentially use this equipment for. And if you're new to the channel, by all means, slide over to the Instagram at CJ's Aquariums. As I told you guys, all the exclusive previews happens there first, live streams, everything. So other than that, that's pretty much gonna cover everything we need to cover this video. So if you guys got questions, comments, drop them down below. I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Other than that, hey, you guys like, comment, subscribe. You guys keep doing what y'all do. Y'all be easy and happy reefing. Peace.